What if I told you that one of the most brilliant inventors of the 19th century died broke, was buried in a pauper's grave with no headstone, and nearly disappeared from history? And what if I told you that this man wasn't just an inventor, but a fighter who took on Thomas Edison, the most famous genius of the Gilded Age, not once, but twice in court, and won? This is the story of Granville T. Woods, the man newspapers once called the Black Edison. But as you'll see, that nickname both elevated him and diminished him. Woods wasn't the Black Edison. Edison was just another man who lost to Woods. Welcome to Black Business Files, where we uncover the hidden stories of Black innovators, entrepreneurs, and empires that shaped history. Granville Taylor Woods was born on April 23, 1856, in Columbus, Ohio. America at the time was still a land divided by slavery and freedom. Woods grew up free, but that didn't mean opportunity came easy. Education for Black children was scarce, and by the time Granville was 10, he had only completed a few years of formal schooling. But what he lacked in formal training, he made up for with relentless curiosity. He loved to tinker, to watch how machines worked, and to teach himself what the classroom denied him. By his teens, he was working odd jobs that kept him close to the world of mechanics, apprenticing in a machine shop, laboring in railroads, and studying every bit of technology he could get his hands on. Railroads were booming, and young Granville saw them as the perfect classroom. He worked as a fireman shoveling coal into locomotives, and later as an engineer. These weren't glamorous jobs, but they gave him hands-on exposure to the very engines driving America's growth. Every shift was like a practical physics lesson: how steam built pressure, how valves released energy, how a machine's smallest flaw could cause disaster. Woods wasn't just learning how to keep trains running, he was learning how to reimagine them. By the early 1880s, Woods had moved to Cincinnati, where he opened his own small shop dedicated to electrical and mechanical devices. He was only in his late 20s, but his vision was already larger than life. In 1884, Woods secured his first patent, an improvement to the steam boiler furnace. Steam was the beating heart of the American industrial machine. Factories, trains, ships all depended on it. But steam engines were notoriously inefficient, wasting fuel and often running dangerously hot. Woods's design improved fuel efficiency and safety, allowing engines to get more power with less coal. It wasn't a glamorous invention. It didn't light up cities or capture headlines. But it was practical, and it solved a real problem. More importantly, it established him in the patent world. For a Black man in the 1880s, this was a bold move. Patents meant legal recognition of ownership, and for a system that often denied Black people legal personhood, Woods's first patent was a declaration: "I am here, and my ideas matter." After proving himself with steam technology, Woods turned his sights to communications. The telephone, invented by Alexander Graham Bell in 1876, was still in its infancy. Early versions were plagued by static and poor sound quality. In 1885, Woods developed an improved telephone transmitter. His design allowed for clearer voice transmission and reduced the noise that made early calls unreliable. When Bell's company saw Woods's invention, they didn't challenge it, they bought it. Bell's team recognized its value and incorporated Woods's work into their growing communications empire. This moment was symbolic. On one hand, it showed Woods's brilliance was respected at the highest levels. He wasn't an outsider tinkering in obscurity. He was contributing to the very center of the communications revolution. On the other hand, it also foreshadowed a pattern. Woods often had to sell his patents to survive, enriching companies like Bell's while limiting his own financial reward. Still, the partnership was a milestone. While Edison would later fight him tooth and nail, Bell's camp acknowledged Woods as a genuine innovator. But genius doesn't protect you from life's harsh turns. In the mid-1880s, Woods contracted smallpox, a disease that was still deadly and disfiguring in that era. He became gravely ill, bedridden, and for a time it looked like his career, and his life, might be over. Most people in his condition would have surrendered to despair. But Woods wasn't most people. While he lay recovering, he sketched new designs, mapped out improvements, and refined his telegraph ideas. His mind simply refused to rest. The experience gave him a new perspective. Woods realized how fragile life was and how important it was to protect his ideas. He knew there would always be competitors ready to swoop in and claim credit. His brush with death made him even more determined to fight for what was his. This resolve would soon be tested. Because once Woods got back on his feet, he wasn't just going to invent, he was going to go to war in the courtroom. Granville Woods' return to work after surviving smallpox wasn't just triumphant, it was combative. His most important invention at this stage was the multiplex telegraph, a device that allowed moving trains to communicate with stations and other trains on the track. Imagine air traffic control, but for the railroad age. It was revolutionary. Until then, railroads had relied on fixed telegraph posts and guesswork to keep trains from colliding. Accidents were common and deadly. Woods' system gave engineers the ability to know where trains were in real time, saving lives and money. But as always, success drew challengers. Enter Lucius J. Phelps, another inventor who claimed his own work in telegraphy overlapped with Woods' patent. To Phelps, Woods was an upstart. To Woods, Phelps was a threat to his rightful claim. The dispute went to court. Now remember, this was the 1880s, a time when black men weren't even guaranteed fair trials in criminal cases, let alone patent disputes. The courtroom was another battlefield stacked against him. Yet Woods wasn't intimidated. He presented evidence, defended his patent, and, against the odds, won. The victory was more than legal. It showed that Woods had the resilience, intelligence, and legal savvy to defend his genius. He wasn't just creating new technology, he was learning how to navigate a system designed to shut him out. If Lucius Phelps was a warm-up, Thomas Edison was the heavyweight. By the 1880s, Edison was the most famous inventor in America. Known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, he had built his reputation on the light bulb, the phonograph, and an empire of patents. But Edison was also infamous for his patent wars. He would challenge rivals, tie them up in lawsuits, and often claim credit for their ideas. So when Woods' multiplex telegraph gained attention, Edison did what he always did. He challenged it. He argued that Woods' design overlapped with his own patents, effectively saying, "This belongs to me." Most inventors folded when Edison came knocking. He had money, lawyers, and influence. Woods had none of those advantages. What he did have was conviction. He knew the multiplex telegraph was his creation, and he wasn't about to let Edison bully him. The case went to court. Against all expectations, Woods fought back and won. It was extraordinary. A black inventor in Jim Crow America had just beaten Thomas Edison, the most celebrated inventor in the world, in court. Woods had defended not just his patent, but his legacy. You'd think Edison would have learned his lesson, but no, he came back for more. A few years later, Edison challenged Woods again, this time over improvements to telegraph technology. Once again, the case went to court, and once again, Woods won. Now imagine the humiliation for Edison. This wasn't just losing once, it was losing twice to the same man. And not just any man, but a black inventor in a society that constantly underestimated black brilliance. After the second defeat, Edison changed tactics. If he couldn't beat Woods in court, maybe he could absorb him. Edison reportedly offered Woods a job in his company. For many inventors, this would have been a dream: financial security, prestige, and association with Edison's empire. But Woods said no. He refused to be swallowed by Edison's machine. He chose independence over assimilation, even if it meant continued financial struggle. That decision was a statement. Woods wasn't inventing for Edison's glory, he was inventing for his own. If you're enjoying this story of Granville T. Woods, make sure you're subscribed to Black Business Files. And don't just stop there. Hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we drop our next video uncovering the hidden stories of black business and invention. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. To understand why Woods' victories were so powerful, you have to understand Edison's reputation. History paints Edison as a lone genius, tinkering late into the night until the light bulb flickers on. The reality? Edison ran Menlo Park, an invention factory where dozens of workers and engineers developed ideas under his name. Many inventions credited to Edison were actually group efforts or outright taken from others. Take the light bulb. Inventors like Humphrey Davy and Joseph Swan had already built early versions before Edison. Edison's contribution was perfecting and commercializing it, not creating it from scratch. Or the motion picture camera. Much of the heavy lifting was done by Edison's assistant, William Kennedy Laurie Dixon. Yet Edison claimed the patents and the glory. Edison also created the Motion Picture Patents Company, or Edison Trust, to monopolize film production in the U.S. Independent filmmakers who resisted were sued into bankruptcy or forced to flee overseas. This was Edison's real genius, not invention, but monopolization. He patented aggressively, litigated ruthlessly, and absorbed competitors until history remembered only his name, which is why Granville Woods stands out. He wasn't just another rival crushed under Edison's weight. He was the rare man who beat him, twice, and then had the audacity to turn down a job offer. By the 1890s, Granville Woods had already changed railroads with his telegraph. But he wasn't done with trains just yet. He turned his attention to a different problem: how to power electric rail cars. At the time, the standard system used overhead wires. You've probably seen these in old photos, long cables stretched over streets, sparking as trolleys passed beneath. They worked, but they were ugly, prone to accidents, and dangerous for both workers and pedestrians. Woods's solution was ingenious: deliver electricity from below. He patented a system that used a third rail, running alongside the existing two rails, to supply power directly to the train. It was safer, more efficient, and tidier. If you've ever ridden the New York City subway, the Chicago L, or the London Underground, you've experienced Woods' vision firsthand. Millions of commuters every day still rely on the basic principle he pioneered. But of course, success attracted challenges. Just like with his telegraph, other inventors and companies tried to contest Woods' third rail patent. They claimed similar designs, hoping to cash in on the booming transit industry. Woods went back to court, and once again, he won. Think about that. A black man in the 1890s not only inventing but repeatedly defending his inventions against some of the most powerful forces of his era. That resilience is as impressive as the inventions themselves. By this point, Granville T. Woods had built a staggering portfolio of over 50 patents. His mind never stopped working. Some of his most notable inventions included the multiplex telegraph, saving lives on the railroads; the third rail system, still powering subways today; automatic air brakes, improving train safety even further; an electric incubator, designed for medical use, decades before neonatal care became standard; improvements to electrical systems, making motors, generators, and lighting more efficient. Woods was a true polymath. He wasn't locked into one niche. He had ideas that spanned transportation, communication, and medicine. He saw connections between industries that others missed. But here's the tragedy. Many of those patents had to be sold off cheaply. Woods rarely had the financial resources to fully develop and commercialize his inventions. White inventors with capital could build empires. Woods often had to settle for survival. It wasn't for lack of vision. It was for lack of access. Racism barred him from investors, from banks, from the networks that made men like Edison into moguls. Woods had the mind of a mogul, but not the system to support him. On January 30th, 1910, Granville T. Woods died at Harlem Hospital in New York City. He was just 53 years old. Despite his brilliance, despite holding over 50 patents, despite saving countless lives and shaping modern infrastructure, Woods died broke. His body was taken to St. Michael's Cemetery in Queens. Without money for a private burial, he was laid in a pauper's grave, a coffin buried alongside other unclaimed bodies. No headstone, no marker, no sign that a genius rested there. The contrast is almost unbearable. Thomas Edison died wealthy, world-famous, celebrated as America's greatest inventor. Granville Woods died in obscurity, his legacy buried with him. But history has a funny way of circling back. Woods' story didn't end in that grave. His patents are studied by engineers, and his inventions are still in use more than a century later. But perhaps the greatest honor is this. Every time a subway roars beneath a city, powered by a third rail, every time trains safely avoid collision because of improved communications, Woods' fingerprints are there. He was more than the Black Edison. He was Granville T. Woods, an original genius whose legacy survived attempts to erase it. Granville T. Woods wasn't the Black Edison. Edison was just another man who couldn't stop him. This has been Black Business Files, where we uncover the hidden stories of Black innovators, entrepreneurs, and empires that shaped history. And now we want to hear from you. Should Granville T. Woods be taught alongside Edison and Bell in schools? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode.